Awesome. Well, let's get going. So hi, welcome. My name is Lauren. I'm going to share with you kind of some tips on entering the tech market and kind of nailing the application and the interview process as well. Before I get into those topics, I'll give you a quick introduction to myself. So yeah, my name is Lauren. I'm from Australia. Back home, I worked in kind of generalist HR roles for a few years before quitting my job and moving to Germany. I've now been at Delivery Hero for almost 3 years as a tech recruiter. I've been mostly focused on hiring roles in the data space, so data scientists, engineers, analysts, um, some project managers, and a few random tech roles thrown in here and there. Yeah, that's been my experience so far. And yeah, welcome. Thank you for joining. During this, I'll try and keep an eye on the chat as well. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to pop them in there and I can try and answer them as well. But otherwise, we can answer them at the booth afterwards also. Fabulous. So I will firstly take you through kind of who I work for. So a little bit of an introduction to Delivery Hero and what we do, followed by preparing for your applications. This is super, super important. The interview process, and then afterwards you can come to our booth for a bit of a chat as well. Awesome. So, who is Delivery Hero? So, we are one of the world's largest delivery companies. We started as a food delivery company, but now consider ourselves to be a deliver anything company. Quarter 4 last year, we processed around 8.1 million orders per day, which is pretty exciting. Globally, we have more than 45,000 employees. Here in Berlin is our global head office, and there is about 3,500 of us now. When I started, there was 1,000, so we have grown a lot. We're in 70 countries, so pretty massive, and we have 1.3 million riders under our belt as well. Our vision is to always deliver an amazing experience, so fast, easy to your door. So very simple. The name Delivery Hero isn't super well known outside Germany because that's the parent company name. We operate under these 13 brands around the world. So Food Panda probably being one of our most well-known brands, and Glovo, which is based in Spain and many other countries, is the newest brand to join our family. And again, our mission to deliver anything. This means we've also moved a lot into the quick commerce. So that's delivering things in under an hour and in as little as 10 minutes. Key part of this here is grocery delivery. So pretty similar to Gorillas, where we open small warehouses and customers order from us directly. So it's a very big part of our business these days as well. Then looking at kind of our reach as well, and we are pretty successful in what we do, and our goal is to be the market leader in pretty much all the countries that we're in. And you can see here that that's quite true. The number one in many areas around the world. We are the number one player in the global quick commerce industry, so that's deliveries in under 1 hour. And we also have the most global coverage out of any delivery companies as well. So we reach around 2.2 billion people globally, which is pretty awesome. Lastly, just our values, which are really a core part of us. So we're here because we care. We always aim higher and we deliver solutions. These kind of help us determine how we work and help us make decisions in our work as well. So yeah, that's a very quick insight into Delivery Hero and who we are. And then moving on to kind of the important topic of today. So what we want to do first is talk about what are you doing before you're applying. It's very, very important to be prepared. The job search does take a bit of work, but if you put the effort in, you'll be rewarded. And I've split the preparation into 3 areas. So we'll discuss attaining the right knowledge, getting more prepared, and then discussing the actual search for the roles. So attaining knowledge. The tech industry is massive. So really thinking about what do you want to do in tech. I know it can be quite overwhelming if you're not super familiar, but doing a bit of research and understanding the different kind of roles there are and the skill sets that are required. For example, front end, maybe if you're a little bit more creative or want to have a bit more kind of fun in your position, designing front end might be more interesting for you. Back end, working in data, very hot topic and super interesting as well. Or do you want to be in product where you're not kind of say coding, but actually working very closely with those who are? So there's really a lot of different career paths you can take. So doing a little bit of research and gathering some information first to see kind of what sparks an interest in you, what sounds exciting to you. Then again, knowing the industry, it's also huge. And a good way, especially if you're newer to tech, is looking at kind of your previous skills and how they might match up with different areas in tech. For example, if you've previously worked in finance, maybe you can look at fintech companies. If you previously have experience teaching, looking at education tech. If you've worked in healthcare, looking at health tech. I think this is an excellent way for particularly people who haven't been in the industry before to transition into it, as I think people really can underestimate the importance of business understanding. When we're looking for tech people, that's something we're looking for as well. People who can understand business problems, translate those into technical problems, and vice versa. So, really having previous experience in different industries can be very, very valuable. So, take a look at your experience, what skills you have, and see how you can apply that to the industry. So, see what kind of companies are here doing that in Berlin. So yeah, then once you've researched the industry, moving on to specific companies. Again, is there certain areas you want to work for? Say, are you very, mission driven and you want to work for a company that is helping with climate change and sustainability, for example? How narrow or broad do you want to go in your search? There's a whole plethora of different options here. Looking at different companies, understanding their mission, understanding their vision, their values, and do they speak to you? Connecting your current skills with what those companies are looking for, looking at them on LinkedIn, and doing a bit of research here. Again, there's so many options. There's, say, many huge companies, say like us, Delivery Hero, but many small startups that can be very interesting and very technically challenging to work for as well. But yeah, very important to start with doing your research, maybe starting more at the narrow side, seeing what your ideal or dream companies would be, and then going out from there. Awesome. Then getting prepared. So again, another very, very important step, your CV. I cannot highlight how important this is. This is the first impression that you're giving to companies of yourself. Maybe they spend between 30 seconds and a minute looking at your CV. So this really counts and you want to make an impact here. Less is more. 1 to 2 pages is ideal. Any longer than that, they might not be reading your CV. Making sure your contact details are clear, including links to your LinkedIn, your GitHub, your Stack Overflow, any of your work or portfolio, making sure that's linked here as well. When describing what you've been doing in your work, try to avoid listing all of your tasks, but highlight what your responsibilities have been. So looking at what impact you had or your deliverables. So if you can get anything that's measurable, results in numbers or data is very helpful and really shows us the impact that you had in your role. For example, if we're talking about data positions, maybe you decrease the processing time of the data pipeline by 45%. Maybe you increase the performance of a churn model by 15%. Maybe you saved X amount of money by making X and Y changes. So showing that impact that you've made in your role is really important. We see a lot of very messy CVs. Yeah, having a nice, well laid out, easy to read CV can really help you stand out, and including keywords in here as well. So for example, in data roles, we're looking for a specific tech stack of using Python, SQL, Cloud, and so on. So having that easily visible on your resume, kind of highlighting those skills that are commonly looked for in the roles that you're applying for. When to write a cover letter? I receive almost no cover letters. So I would most of the time recommend don't use your time on this. Spend more time working on your CV. The only time I would say to use a cover letter is, say, particularly when you're maybe changing industry. Say if you're coming into tech as a new person, then maybe write a cover letter where you can kind of further explain why you're applying for the role, where you see your career going, and maybe connecting some of your transferable skills as well. Or if it's your dream job, I would also suggest writing a cover letter. But otherwise, for everything else, not a big deal. Just have an awesome CV is really what you need. There is a CV workshop being ran today at 11:30 by someone from Zalando. So if you want to really get some in-depth tips on CVs as well, excellent session to attend. Secondly, LinkedIn and your social media profiles. Having a good LinkedIn also very, very helpful. This helps us find you. Us recruiters spend quite a bit of time on LinkedIn directly sourcing people. We're generally using kind of job titles and keywords say the tech stack, for example, to search for people. So when you have a LinkedIn with an updated skills section, you've got all of your job description on there. That makes it very easy for us to find you and identify if you're a fit for one of our roles. And then we often reach out, and that's an awesome way to be discovered and save you time applying for roles as well. So make sure your LinkedIn is updated and it's also aligned with your CV. Thirdly, pitching yourself. Even before you've applied for roles, this is something you can already start practicing. Know how to sell yourself and discuss anything that's mentioned on your CV. And again, thinking about what makes you fabulous. What is your unique value proposition? I know this can be a hard question to answer, but think about previous performance reviews, anytime you've received feedback, or can you identify common threads of things you normally receive praise on, even if it's from your friends? Maybe they're things you can relate to your work. So this is really important to think about and highlight. Whatever this is, try and figure it out, and then highlight this throughout the process. Really important that, yeah, you can say yourself and have a few kind of key skills that you can really highlight as your strong points in there as well. Awesome. Then the actual search itself. What I can't stress enough is the importance of networking. Really, this can help you get a foot in the door, especially when you're new to the tech industry. So what local tech events can you attend? You're all here today, so that's an awesome first step. This is an excellent opportunity to meet people and make connections to help get you in the door at different companies. Are there companies you like that are putting on events? For example, we run meetups in our office. I know Zalando runs meetups. Are there other tech companies here that are doing that as well? For sure. So take a look out there. Tech company websites, Eventbrite, meetups.com. Are there specific interest groups that you can join? For example, Girls Who Code is one here in Berlin. Are there more conferences and career fairs you can go to? Really getting that direct FaceTime with someone from these companies is very helpful to help your name stand out in a sea of applicants that they're going through. For example, last year I met a woman at an event very similar to this online. She was looking for a data engineering internship. I just happened to have one. We hired her a week later. She finished her internship and she's now still, at least a year later, at delivery here in a junior data engineering position. So that was an awesome win for the both of us. So events are super, super helpful. Thinking about who do you already know? Jump on your LinkedIn, go through your network. Who have you previously worked with? Where are they now? Kind of making sure that you can leverage connections that you already have. Thirdly, recruitment agencies. They can be very helpful, but probably more so for senior positions as they're harder to fill. So that's why companies are tending to use them. However, they're also a great source of information. So if you go on websites of recruitment agencies, they often have information like salary reports and industry trend reports, for example. So where people are being hired in certain roles, what are the kind of up and coming jobs that are going to be very popular in the next few years. So they can be a good source of market information and research as well. And then kind of lastly, apply. You've done research, check your networks, then you need to be in it to win it. So getting out there and applying for jobs. I know this is a lot of work and rejection is part of this as well, which isn't always fun, but don't be afraid of that. Um, sometimes, say for internship positions with us, we get more than 150 applications. So we do have to be very picky. So don't get disheartened when you don't get selected. You've just got to keep putting yourself out there and trying all these different avenues to work towards your goals. Again, here, getting referrals. So through all of these other steps you're doing through networking, looking at who you know, getting referrals along the way is very valuable. For example, what I just mentioned, when we have 150 applicants, what I would do is prioritize the referrals in that pipeline. So yeah, reaching out to people you know, getting that referral on there. We know that when we hire referrals, they stay longer and they perform better in their reviews. So it's really a win for us as well. So really make sure, yeah, get out there, meet people and get referred to the companies that you're interested in. I would also highlight that, say if you're still entry level, for example, and there's mid-level roles, or if you're mid-level and there's a senior role advertised, I would still suggest applying if you're one level below what they're looking for. Say often in our roles, we can be flexible, or if someone comes in, say they have the industry knowledge, but they're a bit more junior than we're looking for, that can still be a great win for us. So I would still encourage you to apply for those positions. And again, to women out there, there's the statistics show that men apply for roles when they fit only about 60% of the criteria, but women will only apply when they fit 90. So just keep that stat in mind and put yourself out there. And even if, yeah, you're at that 60% of the requirements, apply anyway. As I mentioned, we're often flexible when it does come to levels and experience, for example. Perfect. So then just a few more general tips before we move on to interviewing. So if you happen to be studying university, look for working student positions, a great way to get in the door and to get some experience for about, say, they're usually about 20 hours a week while you're studying. Look for internships. You don't have to be studying to get these. Anyone can do an internship in Germany. And even when you're kind of entering the market as well, networking is even more important to make those connections, as there's even more people applying for junior and internship positions. To start getting more experience, you can do some small personal projects to show off your skills, maybe building a website, or if you're in data science, doing Kaggle challenges. So you can, one, show off some skills and get more experience as well. Or are there nonprofits out there that you can do a project for to get started as well? Kind of anything to get some more experience and content on your resume. Also, joining hackathons. Benefit of these, again, you can be learning and networking. So two birds with one stone there. Again, smaller companies and startups get less applications. They're less well known. Say, for example, I know last year, maybe we got 10,000 applications a month. So that makes it more challenging to stand out. With smaller companies, still have very interesting, challenging work, but that might be easier to get yourself in the door. If your goal is a big company, that can work down the track as well. Starting smaller, maybe for a year, then moving on, for example. And finding a mentor. This can provide you with, invaluable information. There's one website I would suggest written here. So mentoring-club.com. It was actually started by two people from Berlin. One of them used to be an engineering manager at Delivery Hero. You can go on there. There's a whole directory of mentors and you can request some time with them. So even spending an hour with someone who's in, a position that you want to be in 5 years can be really valuable and they can give you some awesome advice as well. So that's something that's definitely worth your time to help, gain some more skills and some knowledge from someone who is doing exactly what you want to be doing. Perfect. So then moving on to a bit more of the recruitment process and some interview tips. The process can look quite different depending on the company that you're applying for. But this, I've got a bit of a general process here. You're most likely going to be speaking with a recruiter in the beginning. They're generally going to kind of get to know you, cover the tech stack you're working on, some projects, your motivation, and your salary expectations. Sometimes it's common to have an online coding challenge or a bit of a case study that's been developed by the team. Yes, I'll link that in the chat shortly as well. Yes, coding challenge. Then likely, of course, you're meeting your future manager. Maybe you'll also be meeting one of the team members that you'll be working closely with, and then coming to a hiring decision. This is a little bit of a guideline, of course, depends on the company, can be longer or shorter. But yeah, kind of generally meeting a recruiter, meeting a few different team members, maybe having a coding challenge, and most likely doing some live coding in the interviews as well. So I'll go a bit more into detail into what's covered in those. But firstly, a bit of, yes, awesome. Thanks, Etta. The link for the mentoring club is in the chat. Pre-interview prep, again, highlighting, reading about the company, the values, and the specific job description. You'd be surprised at how many people come to an interview and they don't know anything about the company. Even, Delivery Hero, we have a description of what we do in the advert, and I'm still interviewing people who have no idea what we do. Even though they have, maybe they have the right skills, this is a red flag for us, and that's not going to get you moved forward in the process. So yeah, making sure you've got the right knowledge prepared for your interview. Again, practice introducing yourself. I think very important to do this out aloud, even if it's to yourself or get some friends to practice with. And again, practice common interview questions. Have a read of your CV and think what they might be asking from your CV, and also thinking about things like maybe what is the biggest technical challenge that you've faced? What best practices do you use when you're coding? What would be the most challenging project you worked on in your boot camp? Thinking about these questions and practicing your answers will make the interviewing process much, much easier. Be clear on what your motivation is. Again, sometimes I interview people and their only motivation is to move to Germany. Whereas we're looking for a little bit more than that. So be clear on what your motivation is. Talk about your career goals here as well. Why do you want to work for this specific company? Sometimes if some people are lacking skills, but they're very strong in the motivation and what they want to do and they're passionate, that's that's going to get you across the line as well. And we can teach people things. So these are very important there also. How can you connect your skills to this specific company? Say if you've worked in logistics management before, maybe that's something really interesting to mention in an interview with delivery here, for example. So making those connections. And lastly, preparing questions for the interviewers. This is a two-way process. You're also deciding if this is a company that you want to work for. And it also helps us see your motivation as well. There's an endless list of questions you can ask. So things like, how does your company support learning? What does the career path look like? What is the tech stack of the team? What are the biggest challenges that they're facing? Ask the interviewer why they enjoy working there. This helps us, see your motivation, see what you're interested in. Making sure you have questions at every step of the process, I would highly recommend. Perfect. Then there's kind of two types of interview questions that they can be asking you. The first one is behavioral questions. So these are used to check your soft skills, people skills, communication skills. So they would be things like the examples I've got here. So maybe tell me about a time you had a difficult stakeholder and how you managed that situation. Give me an example of how you built trust with your stakeholders. Tell me about a time you went above and beyond in your role. So these are all asking for specific examples from your experience. So these aren't hypothetical questions. I think it can be quite easy to answer a hypothetical question of what you would do, but what we're looking to see is how you actually have handled certain situations. Don't be afraid to share examples also of where things have gone wrong. But then highlight what you've learned. This shows you can identify when things don't go right and you can learn from them and take different action. And that's a very valuable skill to have as well. Um, if they ask you a question that you don't have an example for, just ask if they would like you to answer it hypothetically and go from there. Also, when you're answering, you can use the STAR technique. So that's situation, task, action, and result. So it gives kind of the whole story of what happened from the very beginning to what you did and the end result, of course. So it gives a nice, well-rounded answer. These are really helping us see if you align with our values and if you kind of have the behaviors that we're looking for in the roles as well. Then maybe the more challenging part is the technical questions. So these aim to verify your knowledge and your hard experience. Some technical questions might be covered in the interview with the recruiter, but most of them will be covered kind of in depth in the rest of the process. Some examples here: what is clean code? What is a good name for a class or a method? What are the fundamental differences between a classification and a regression problem for data science? So these are covering your knowledge around certain technical topics. Generally, the interviewer should start easier and then work their way to harder questions to see how broad your knowledge is. They might also have a particular use case that they want to talk through with you and maybe how you might handle a certain situation in the context of that company. To help you prepare here, really pay attention to the job advert. What are the duties listed? What are the key skills they're looking for? Especially when it comes to that key skills section, take a look at what they need, and that's probably what they're going to be asking questions on here. Live coding. Here, practice, practice, practice. Use sites like HackerRank or TopCoder to practice challenges. You can also see mock interviews on this website here. Eda, if you can paste that in the chat, that would be awesome. So you can watch interviews from Google, Facebook, and such on this website. Key thing to remember when live coding is talk through your thought process. We're also testing your communication skills and your problem solving skills. If you don't understand something, ask. Maybe one hint will help you solve the problem. Ask also clarifying questions to help you understand the problem. This can be the most stressful parts. Practice and communication are really key here. Lastly, some general tips for the process. So be honest. If you don't know something, admit that instead of making something up. The interviewer will know trust me. And I often see in feedback that it is written in, it's written in a positive light when people admit they don't know something. And that, you know, you're open to learn it. That's what we're looking for. Also keep your answers to the point. I know sometimes we ask something about A, they start talking about that, then end up talking about Z. So keep in mind the question that they've asked and trying to stick to that topic. Showing off your best skills, remember your unique selling points, what these are, and highlighting these throughout the interview process. Make sure you clearly understand the questions. If you don't understand, don't be afraid to ask. If you don't understand, and ask them to reword the question, ask it in a different way. Don't forget to be yourself and smile in the process as well. They also want to get to know you as a person. Lastly, just some general tips throughout the process. Use the recruiter to gain more information. We are here to help you. We also want you to succeed in the process. That makes our lives easy as well when we get awesome people in our recruiting processes. For example, at every step, making sure that you're asking the recruiter what's covered in the interviews if they don't already let you know. So you want to be prepared. Are they doing live coding? Is it a technical interview? Is it just behavioral questions? Will they be doing a case study? They should give you this information. Use the recruiter to help you through the process and ask for tips. Ask for feedback as well to help prepare for your next interviews. And if you are rejected in the process, ask for a feedback call. This is very valuable information that can help you be successful in the future. For example, I've had candidates where they didn't pass the technical interviews. They got feedback 6 months later, they applied again, they'd improved their skills, and they're now employed at Delivery Hero. So this is very valuable. Again, if you need a tech, highlight those transferable skills. For example, that industry experience that I've been mentioning previously. Fabulous. So this really brings us to the end of the chat with just a few minutes, 2 minutes left, so nice and on time. I hope this was helpful. We have a live booth here as well. I'll be there shortly, so feel free more questions to jump into the Delivery Hero booth and have a chat. You can find us at deliveryhero.com, check out our career page, apply. You can also find me on LinkedIn as well. I will put my LinkedIn link in the chat very quickly so you can find me there. Feel free to connect. I'm very happy to have a chat about anything from this or anything about Delivery Hero as well. So you can find me here. Fabulous. Awesome. Then everyone, good luck. Enjoy the rest of the presentation. And yeah, maybe chat to some of you another time. Bye.